Hello, welcome back to Design Elements and Principles, Session 2. So this is like week 2. Shape. Just to kind of go over and double check some things, make sure everybody's up to date and doing things correctly. Make sure you do your attendance on time. That's how I take attendance. It's a little quiz, easy peasy. Session videos are always in the session video lectures. Then there's the PDF of the line lecture if you want to review it. Mid-session project reviews. This is where I double check things. Then you have assignments that are Tuesday's assignments and Thursday's assignments. Just make sure you're staying on top of stuff. It's, things that I cover on Tuesday are due on Tuesday. Things that I cover on Thursday are due on Thursday. And I always will do the same ones over and over and over. So, big one, just make sure you're doing attendance and make sure you're turning things in on time. This is the first week you're going to have stuff due. I do adhere to the rubric. So if it's late, no matter what, it's late. You got to contact me, as I talked about in the first week, is you have to be proactive with me. Don't tell me after it's late. Tell me beforehand and be like, it's going to be, I'm going to turn it in tomorrow. Don't ever be willy-nilly, like, oh, I'll turn it in later. I won't accept that. You got to be on the ball. We're moving, stuff's due Tuesday, Thursday. I move on. I learned about mine. I'm moving on. I'm on Shape now. And so it continues. So don't fall behind. Use your time wisely. Plenty of time to get the things done. Plenty over the week. Yeah, lots of time. These aren't huge assignments. So make sure you're staying on top of everything. Keeps moving. We have 16 weeks together. It's a nice time. Things will, but it seems jarring at first, but jump on in and start to learn it, just like practice anything. So with that said, let's jump on in. Don't forget to do your attendance for this week. It is due on Thursday evening, and I do put it in. If you forget to do it, I mark you absent. Even if I saw you and talked to you, it's just the thing you have to do. It's like punching your timesheet at work. If you don't punch your timesheet and you work, well, you don't get paid. All right, these are 5 easy questions. Look them up. What does crop mean in a design? I know what it means, but I'm just going to copy, and then I'm going to paste it into Google and hit return. And in design, crop refers to removal of outer or unwanted parts. Remove unwanted outer areas. Boom, done. Got the first one done. Move on to the 5 questions. You hit continue. It should take you 5 minutes. This is one of those things you should do first thing in as soon as it opens. If you do it, you knock it out, you get it done. Boom, you're done. Move on in life. Know that hey, I got an A. How rad is that? Look it up. Yeah, you get a quick little A. This will be our shape lecture for today. I'll go over that in a little bit. Of course, always mid-session reviews. I check these every day at least once. It fluctuates on when I can check them, but I check them every day. So just know today I have a bunch of classes. I'll try to check in between classes. Sometimes I check at night. Sometimes I check in the morning, but I will check every day. So always, and then be patient. And again, I talked about that. If you're submitting something that you want me to check, but it's 10 o'clock on the night it's due, it won't get checked. I'm done at 10. I'm not checking it. I'm done it after 6, unless there's an emergency. So just kind of bide your time and know okay, I got to work a little bit ahead if I want the instructor to double check and make sure I'm doing it 100% correct. I know everybody, I work better under pressure. Well, here's your pressure. Turn it in early. Trick yourself. You don't work better under pressure. It's proven untrue. And the other thing, what working under pressure doesn't allow you to do is make changes. So you may be working on something under pressure, oh yeah, I wait, it's due tomorrow. It's so great. work on this. And I'm acting like this is what I used to think. And then I'd get it done and turn and be like, yeah, so rad. And then like a day later, I'd be thinking about like, oh, you know what would have been better? And I have better ideas. So if you work more in advance and then you stop and you literally sleep on it, like there's a term, sleeping on it is for a reason, is your subconscious brain will continue to work on the problem. And then like the next day, it will give you new solutions to that problem. So if you don't allow yourself that time, you're actually not allowing yourself to be as creative or work as well as you would, because you would work on it. Say I'm doing my research and I do it in advance, and then I kind of just wait a day and I may like go back to it, oh, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna change this and this and make it even better. But if you've turned it in last minute, you can't make those changes to make it even better. So that is why. So use the mid-session review. I've been checking them, helping people out, making little tweaks, changes. Nothing's been crazy, and it's been turning out great. And then I will only concentrate on Tuesday's assignments. And yeah, so let's dive on in. Let's do the shape lecture. So yeah, and this is great. So like today, we're just going to cover off on the shape lecture, the book review, and the research. And then Thursday, we'll cover off on the other two assignments. Nice and easy throughout the week. You can knock these out right away. So just kind of keep that in mind. Don't get up and run. Like just start working on something while it's fresh in your mind. All right. Talking about shape. Let's open up the old drawing board first. Zoom in a bit. Let's zoom in. Oh, 1 second. Technical difficulties. I had to update some stuff. And once I updated, I had to change computers. And so it's like, you know, when you get a new phone and everything is wrong right away. That's what I'm dealing with right now. All right. Now we're cooking. So we started off with a point, right? A point is just an area in space, and it can go anywhere in space. We talked about this last week. So if I like, you know, if like this was kind of like space-time grid, I can put points anywhere in space, and that's just a point. But once I start to connect the points with a line, well, that's what we have, is we have a line from one point to another point. No matter how we get there, it is a line. Cool. And the lines can, you know, they can be fat, they can be thin, they can be expressive, they can, you know, like we did that. How crazy can you get with that line? How can you express emotion with a line? Well, you can. You know, I'm feeling really joyful. Nice and curvy and smooth. I'm feeling anxious. It's like crits and crosses. That's how I feel. And that's just lines. All right. Now what we want to do, what the heck, is connect that line. So what that means is, sorry, not getting all the way to the bottom, is when I draw, if I have points 1, 2, 3, and 4, and I start to connect them all the way to here, not a shape yet. There's an opening. As soon as I close this out, this becomes a shape. So it's when a line finishes up, then you have a shape. You can fill this area without, and this is the way I like to illustrate two things. Without, if you filled this, everything would fall out, right? If I tried to fill this with paint, the paint would drip out because it still has an opening. Here I can fill it with paint, and because it's closed up, nothing can fall out. It's a shape. Now, something I want everybody to start working on as designers, and it's very funny, and I get questioned on this all the time, is we are used to, and this works more in the programs, and I'll talk about it more in the programs over the next, like Illustrator and InDesign, over the next couple weeks a little bit, is that if I want a square, but I want it to be red, I can fill it with red, right? So what do? Normally, we draw a square, then we change, and then we're like, okay, I'm going to color it in with red, right? And I have a red square. What I want you, and I'll teach you to let go of this idea, because it just looks more professional. When you want a red square, just simply draw a red square. Now, can you see it? Like, see the difference? I can zoom in on it. Is that this has this like black outline, but this one doesn't. This is like more pure. But we grow up with like cartoons and coloring books and weird things. And so we always think like, oh, when I'm going to draw and I want, you know, even like a circle, and then like, okay, then I go back and I color it in. Or it could simply be like, I want a red circle, and I make a red circle and I color it in. Far more vibrant, pure. We don't need this. So that's that joke I talk about with shapes, is shapes close off completely, no matter how you do it. So if you fill it with red, the red's not going to fall out no matter what you do. It's not going to drain out of there, because all you're doing is drawing that outline with the color that you want it to be, no matter what you do. Oh, blue. Switch to blue. So when you're thinking about shape, and when you're starting to draw shapes, I'm going to show you how in those programs that shapes don't need to have a black outline to make them a shape. And we're going to start losing that. One thing I say is when you look at your examples and when we're running through items, is look at how many graphic design examples that you pick in which the shape has an outline. I'm going to show you 5 examples today, and you'll notice all but one example, and the one example is purposely done, none of them have black outlines around the shape. It's just a shape for shape, and that's all you need. So it becomes a far more sophisticated way to work. And you're like, wow, he's really going on a lot about this. But it will affect the way things look in the future whenever you are working on projects. So let's dive in to shape. Hopefully this is working like I said. Oh, see, I can't get to the bottom of the screen. All right. It's weird. It's not letting me go all the way to the bottom of the screen. Something I have to check out. Okay. So a shape, just like a line, and like you'll read in the book, a point, these are little elements. And a shape is a piece or an element I can add to the design, and I can change it, move it, adjust it. So when we're talking about design elements, which is the section that we're on, they are, think of them as like almost like physical pieces you can move around. When we get to the second half of this course, we'll be talking about the principles of design. And that the principles deal with how do we arrange all the elements. So that's why we're doing elements and then principles. We learn about all the things, and then we learn about how to arrange those things. So that's why we're stepping through the way we do. So we learned about a point. I can put a point on a page. It's a dot. I can move it around. I can put a line. The line can help me guide the viewer's eye. It can help it feel expressive. You know, I can have jagged lines or very smooth and curvy lines. Now I can do the same with shapes, but shapes can now contain items, and they can house, or they have the ability to building with shapes is almost what it's called. So I can start to take a shape and a shape and a shape, like 3 shapes. If I just start, you know, like creating shapes, like, oh, I kind of got a little Mickey Mouse figure going on. And you build with shapes. So that's something to think about. So different kinds of shapes, and how do we work with these shapes? Definition. A shape is a flat enclosed area with 2 dimensions, a length and a width. That's it. And it's everything that connects. So, you know, I drawn on that other page, I drew a bunch of squares, and, you know, we got a triangle, but we can also, it's anything. There, organic shape, as long as it's closed up, and then you can fill it. That's the main thing. It's enclosed. Shapes, again, just like lines, they can vary in size, shape, proportion, orientation, complexity, but it's still, in the end, we just call it a shape. It could, so you like, so complex. I'm trying to think of something I could draw, but I don't want to waste your time. You know, like really ornate drawing of a chair, like, but if you filled it all in, it would just be a shape. Or you could do that like reverse, you know. It's just a different way to think with shapes. So we have geometric, which is precise. And a lot of the programs have preset geometric shapes. You can make a square, you can make a rectangle, you make an ellipse, a perfect circle, you can make star shapes, you know, all again. The computer will do it and help you make them as precise as possible. And then you can also make the free, irregular, or asymmetrical shapes, as we say, like found in nature. So those are shapes. I want, you know, the leaf. There's a leaf shape. I don't know, it's kind of crappy, but there's a leaf shape. Organic, nature, all about it. It is a shape. How do we use these shapes? Structure and form. So shapes start to define structures and forms of objects in a design. So they start becoming areas, I want to call it like almost like areas of interest. If you have a blank page and you start with some dots, you're like, okay, we're starting with, you know, I have really small areas of interest, little points. And then I could draw some lines, more interesting. But then when you start adding shapes, it's that next level of interest. And I start looking at like, then I start questioning, why is that shape there? I might do it with the line as well, but the shape is even like more impactful. And so I'm like, well, why? I wonder why the designer put that shape there, and why am I looking at it in such a way? And that is true. People will subconsciously think about that, or your design will be so flawless that you'll trick people basically into looking where you want them to look, so they get the information that you want them to get. And that's a big part. So let me talk about negative, and I'll talk about that here in hierarchy. So negative space is the space around the shapes. And it's just as important as the shape itself is the shape around, as the space around it. And you're like, but like, why? What would that mean? So if I drew, you know, I got a square and I got another square. There's negative space around these two. But if I put a square right on top of another square, I essentially just turned that square into a rectangle, because I lost that space in between that defined the two shapes, and I created then a single shape. Those are the building blocks of creating bigger items. and we'll move through that when we're working on projects throughout the semester, is you're going to learn that in Illustrators. Even though you possibly have never used Illustrator, you're using it in this class, and you're going to learn it, and you're going to be like, oh my gosh, if I add this to this, I can make that. And that's how it works. So negative space is very important, and when you want to keep things separated or when they become joined. So that negative space, very important. Sometimes also in design we call it white space. We don't want items to touch, anything like that. So negative space is very important. Hierarchy and emphasis. Now, this is what I'm talking about with the psychology of graphic design, is getting people to look where you want them to look on your design. And we can use shape. So say like I have a poster, and if I put a big block up at the top and I fill that in with, a color, and then I have just some other items down here, and like say like here, this would be a picture of somebody, and then some more information here, and I'm like, yeah, I'll put some more information there. But in this block up here, let's see if I can do it quick. We have title. Now, because there's a big block of red right here, our eyes want to go to this first. It looks like it's the most important thing. So people are going to read this title because I made it very important by putting a shape there. And it's big and it's bold and people read it. So I am saying to people, I want you to see this first. And then as naturally as we read as Western country, we read right to left, top to bottom. So I can say, I'm going to pick the biggest, boldest thing at the top. I want them to see that first. And then as they go down, they can find my information, other information. But I used a shape to tell people, I want you to start at the top because I made it big, bold, and different. So hierarchy and emphasis by using shape can tell people where you want them to read. And so that's the coolest part, is you're going to learn all these secrets along the way of becoming a graphic designer, of how to like almost trick people into seeing what you want them to see, and even better, not seeing what you don't want them to see. And it happens all the time in graphic design. The information needs to be there, but we're going to hide it visually, not like take it out and make it hard to see, but we're going to distract you and make you see the important stuff first. All that tiny copy, all that like weird like things, you're like, well, I didn't know to read that. And they're like, well, it was on the page. And you're like, oh my gosh, yeah, but it was at the bottom and, or along the edge in a weird font. And you're like, yes, but it was there. And you're like, well, I didn't read it. Well, it's because I designed it that you would kind of maybe miss it, but it's there. Just because you didn't read it doesn't mean it wasn't there. So crazy, crazy stuff. Symbolism. So shapes are symbols in all our cultures. Different shapes, different symbols. I hope I drew this with enough definition. It's an octagon. And it's red. That's what a red octagon means to us. Or, a yellow triangle is yield. We'll do this one. If you see this one, don't go near it, right? Radioactive symbol. These are just shapes that we arrange in certain orders that become recognizable, no matter how we see them, as a symbol for something. A shape becomes a symbol, and it becomes representative in different cultures for certain things. So a triangle, a circle might represent unity and eternity. Triangle might suggest balance or tension, or they reference back to something else. And so you can do certain designs And if I wanted somebody to stop and read something, I don't have to physically make a stop sign, but I can just draw a tiny octagon, make it red, fill it in, and people will just kind of be like, oh, it's a tiny stop sign. I must probably have to read that. And so there's a lot of information in that shape alone. Emotion and mood. Shapes can evoke emotions. Sharp, angular shapes might convey tension and excitement. Soft, curved shapes, calmness and harmony. I should put a section here about color, because oh, it's just a soft, fluffy cloud. No, it's an organic, weird shape. So this, okay, right here, this is a soft, fluffy cloud. Or if I do this and I just add like one little thing, I'll extend this one. Or is it a pool of blood? So it's like now color changes what that shape means, depending. So think about the mood, think about the emotion, think about the color you do it in. All those will interact. And we got a section on color, so we'll get to it there. But you have to think about all those kind of things and how they add up. If I did a yellow octagon, and I was like, how come nobody's reading those sections with the yellow octagon? You'd be like, why is it yellow? It's supposed to be red. You're like, oh, I thought it'd be more interesting. Well, nobody's reading it as a stop sign. They're just seeing it as maybe a bullet point. Shapes are the base for everything, basically. Logos, for layouts, illustrations, anything. Like when you learn to draw as an artistic drawer, a lot of times you start building with shapes. That's the baseline for drawing. And then you start the next one up, which we'll be covering off as next week, is form. And then you take those flat shapes and then you turn them into forms like cubes, and those cubes stack and they become a 3D object. So that's next week. But shapes are the base of everything. And then we build upon balance and harmony with those shapes, making sure that in the design, everything works together well. Let's check out some shape designs. This poster for Rocky. Take a little drink. All shapes. I would say, like, if we exclude, let's exclude the black text here, but include the white text, this, and all of this. It's all just shapes. And if you've seen the movie Rocky, or if you know anything, if you know about it, the main character runs up a set of stairs in Philadelphia, and he starts putting up his arms in celebration, and the camera goes around him, and it used to be a very iconic scene. So the artist for this movie took that scene and doubled it up and only did it in shapes. So the main character here is a shape. There's a little line coming in, but basically it's a shape. And we take this shape and I say human. And then the steps, this is even crazier. These are just irregular rectangles, but they totally look like stairs. There's no rhyme or reason to them. It's just like the way that they were kind of perfectly placed. And this is the big key too, is having this little cutout on the side, shifted here, that we look at these as steps. And these are the steps. The other great part is it's also his shadow. So if the light was coming from this direction and hitting him, his shadow would be there. So he created the shadow and then had his shadow, which is just a big shape, become the person. And the person is actually, this is foreshadowing what he's going to do. This whole poster is all just some shapes. Really well placed shapes. Super cool. Love it. Triangles. This piece. think we do triangle. Do we do triangle? No. Okay. In the future, I think I got triangles. Just triangles. All triangles broken up to help create tension, help lead the eye through the piece, to maybe tell a little bit of a story. So we have these triangles, and everything's a triangle. There's a little triangle here. There's a cutoff triangle here. This is a triangle. Every shape here, this is the only one, but we know in our hearts that it's actually a triangle that's getting cut off. They're all triangles. Then we have this illusion with the triangle. So we filled the triangle with an image, and then it's broken. You know, this one and this one, and it's like that broken glass. You know, like they show you the shards of glass a little bit offset. I don't know where hair comes in. And then there's this, you know, broken glass triangle here. So this adds tension. Oh, what's this about? The other thing we kind of like don't fully notice is this. We have this orange one here. And as we read from top over and then down, but if we look at this main area, this triangle is pushing us this way with our eyes, which leads us, and then this arrow is pushing us down. I know, I'm drawing all over the place. Let's clean this up. So we have the orange that if we come in from the top, it's pointing us down. We have this orange pointing us up, two shapes, which lead us into this, which take us to this shape, which point us down to the title of the piece. Super great playing around with triangles. It's just triangles that can add so much to a piece. These are the things that you'll learn over time of, like, when you're looking, how is the viewer, how am I guiding the eye? How is and I do this every day when I design. How am I reading it? How is the reader going to read it? Should I put it here? Should I put it there? And I move one there and I look and I'm like, no, okay, I'm going to put it over here. It's going to read better. But this all leads us down to the title of the article. And once we know that, this part right here also highlights where to start reading our article. And this is all just done basically with triangles. The triangle, so expressive. We can just be simple too. I love these towering, nonsensical shapes for no reason, but they put the line, you know, like they just add something to it. I keep this in here, and sometimes I have such a hard time talking about it. And it's like, it's a film I've never seen, and it's kind of this weird French tragic film. I think it was wartime. But I love this poster. And the poster is just like, it's almost like all the letters are almost like on stilts. And they're a little bit like wonky. They're not even, like they're not just perfect rectangles. They're each a little bit off kilter. And it just adds to that, like, breathless. And then we have one shape, we change the color. And it just kind of changed, like, why are we looking at that? And it highlights this gentleman and this little boy, this tragic little part here. Again, it's just these weird shapes. And then they place the letters perfectly within these shapes. And it just adds to the piece. You like really read it. And it's like they're towering and they're seem, you know, like fragile and tall and skinny. It just, I love it. It's a very hard to explain. Now, the other thing I want you to notice too, is I was talking about let's see if I can go back and erase everything I did. In all these examples, no shapes have an outline around them. There's nothing defining the shape. It's just simply the shape itself. There's no black outline. The white that you see here is just simply because they're spaced apart. We don't have any black outlines here. Look how beautiful and clean and clear this is. If I was to put a black outline, which is our standard, working, it really would, like, it changes and darkens everything. And we don't need that. We're not creating a cartoon. all these shapes are just colored shapes for colored shapes. Adding that black line, which we're accustomed to doing when we're brought up in drawing from, cartoons and coloring books and stuff like that. No, we don't need that anymore. Here's another great example of that. Not a single black line in this piece. Beautiful, gorgeous. And it shows everything we need to see for binoculars. And I started talking about, like, these letters too are so chunky that they're shapes in themselves. But we have this beautiful swooping shape come up. Everybody knows what it is because our minds can fill out that, like, this is most likely a thumb and 4 fingers. And it's focusing binoculars. We got a little mouth, so we have a reference of, like, where on the face. And the green is that symbol of, like, that coating that are on some binoculars, like that iridescence that you see sometimes. And this is just all built with shapes. Even the lips, just a little shape. Nothing more is needed. Simple shapes to tell us the story of Micron binoculars. These, maybe because of the elegance and the lips, these binoculars, I would say, we do it. The demographic for the sale of these particular Micron may be for female patrons of the arts or, horse racing, whatever. But it is a little bit more on a female demographic with this poster. Demographics is a term used in graphic design, and it's your audience. You wouldn't, and when we talk about demographics, and it seems a little bit obvious, but sometimes you want a poster that's a little more feminine because you're going to put it in a certain magazine, or it's going to go on a certain website. And then if it goes on a different website, you may change this for a different demographic. Like a goofy one is when we talk about demographics, and I know I'm jumping a little bit, but it is an important words to hear, is think about Monster Energy drink. You wouldn't be selling that to 80-year-old people. When you sell Monster Energy drink, you're always showing, like, extreme sports and loud music. You wouldn't have, like, some people playing chess slamming Monster Energy drink. It's just the wrong audience, the wrong demographic. You'd be wasting your money on that ad. Here's the only example that I have that has black lines in it. This piece is done by famed graphic designer Milton Glaser. American born. He's iconic. You'll learn more about him in your years here at MATC. All shapes again. Everything's a shape. The black, shape. The letters, even better. Perfect shapes. Look at those. Awesome shapes. The hair, made with swirly shapes. Now you're going to say, Joel, he used a black line on this. And I'll say you are correct. But the other weird part is the black, for a lot of it, opens up into the black of the face. And so it's a continuation of this shape itself almost. So I kind of digress on that. It's like, he did outline the shapes, but he didn't create a barrier between the hair shapes and the face. They lead right in, and it becomes part of the illustration itself. I know it's crazy, hey? It's like, wow, Joel talked for 30 minutes all about shape. But it's like one of the building blocks for what we do and how we function as artists and designers. We're so used to that, the idea of, like, when I start to draw and I start with a line, but essentially we're starting in our minds, it's a shape. And then we're going to add another shape to that, you know, and I'm going to add another shape to that. And if I have those three shapes and then I refine it and I add, you know, like some nuggle, then I can make it like a little fist, you know, but it's all built from shapes. Everything we do, that line creates a shape, that shape creates an image. And then later on, next week, we'll talk about how that creates form, which is when we take a shape and it becomes a 3D. So, any questions on shape? All right, cool. Let's talk. Wow. All right, let's talk about the assignments. Go in depth in one. Why isn't this closing? There you go. All right. So that was the shape lecture. Easy peasy. Today, point, line, and plane. So last week we read about form storming in the book. Form storming is how idea generation, practicing, trying things out more than once, iterations. That's how creativity builds. And creativity also builds from practice. The more you practice, the better you get at it. Just walking around and thinking about it doesn't work as well as sitting down and doing it and actually working on it. The more you work on stuff, the more you experiment, the more you try. Try it once, throw it away, try it again. Throw it away, try it again. The better you'll get at it. I always talk about this. People who play instruments, you talk to people, you know, if you know somebody who's like really good at playing piano, really good at playing guitar, they're just, unless they're a savant, yes, I always have to throw that in because somebody's like, what if there is? Yes, there are some people just a part of their brain is different than everybody else's. They're just naturally good at it. But if you practice something every day, you're going to become good at it. And those people who are like really good at an instrument, and you're like, wow, you're so good at it. You know what they're doing is they're going home and instead of doing something else, they practice their instrument. And that's the same with this. So that form storming and that brainstorming is also a creative practice. Now we're in the book and we're going to talk about point, line, and plane. So we talked about point, we talked about line, and then today, plane. A plane is another name for a shape. So what I want you to do is, you heard from me. Now I want you to hear from the book. And again, just kind of peruse the book. Look through it. You don't have to memorize anything, but start to look at what their examples of like point, line, and plane may be. See how they play with it and what their expressions are. The book gives you another point of view into what these could be. There you are, plane. You can start with this. So give it a whirl, take a look through it, see what they've done, check it out. Oh, I didn't mean to close that. And then when we set it up, as I talk about everything, I am looking for everything you do from here on out in life should be done nice and neat. It should look professional. So when you turn in your assignment, I'm also looking at, did the student set theirs up to look just like this? And I'll start to be, one thing I know, so I've seen a lot of good, like left, 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 left. And then you just do this in Google Docs. And I think you can even, like, if you copy and paste this in Google Docs, will it go in correctly? You could be, because these will go away. These examples will go away. And I think I did this last week. Okay, I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to hit copy. Oh, give me a minute. Like I said, new computer. I got to do everything all the time. There we go. And I'm going to go to a document, a blank document, and I'm going to just try to paste that in. Pasted it all. Well, it's all good. It's all left justified. And then all you need to do is move the title to centered. Everything should be to the left except for the title. And that's just normal typing. This, I wouldn't do that though. I think it kind of botched up the returns. Yeah. So don't do the copy and pasting, but it's called left align is when your copy starts on the left. This is center align. So when your copy is in the center, but then when you start paragraphs, they should go back to left align. And those are here, right here. So it's left, center, right. We don't use right all that often. Right is for like fancy stuff. And force justified is something else. You'll get into that in typography, but don't center align your copy, your body copy, your type. This is only for titles. And I'm pretty hardcore about that. That if I start seeing this happen I'll be like, don't center your body copy. It's just, you don't do it. In future classes, I make fun of it and say, like, you're not writing a poem. Like, I always just think poems are centered down the page. And sorry for anybody who's a poet. I hope I'm not hurting any feeling. But like, no, when we type, it's just like a book. It's left align. So make sure you're kind of checking these little things. These little things are the small parts that start to grow and make you a better graphic designer. Because when you typeset copy as a graphic designer, the first thing you do is you make it left align. You don't center it. And in fact, we have a whole thing about not centering type that you'll be learning about over the next couple of years. So even with this small assignment, make sure it looks good. And this carries through to everything you do, no matter what it is. I tell this story and you'll hear me say it all the time. I make the dumbest stuff for our household. We need a list for chores, or we need this for something else. I design everything. Like, I don't just like type it out. Like, I'll go hardcore and I'll make the coolest chore chart ever. One, because I'm a designer. I can do it and it's exciting and I want to make it look good. Who sees it? Me, my wife, and my kid. But I still go through the process of designing and making sure that everything is great. So like when you look at this and you're typing up, oh, I just have to do this quick textbook where I read through it and type it up. Spend the extra 3 minutes and make sure you design your Word document and it looks great. Because once you get in that habit, every time you do it, it takes less and less time and you become really, really good at it. All right, shape. Shape research. Just like the line research, you're going to do shape research. You're going to find a book cover, movie poster, album cover that have shape in them. They'll define them. We're looking for like really obvious examples that shape is jumping out. Because I'll get back to you if you have one. I'm like, I'll be like, I don't see shape in here. In this example, what were you defining as shape in there? So these are the 3 examples. And I'll go through. I'm going to do this. Presentation using a preferred program. In a couple of weeks, we'll be changing this to using a specific program, but you haven't learned them yet. You're going to design a template, 16:9 ratio. I talked about that. Screens are now 16:9. We're no longer talking 4:3. You need to clearly label. Something I have seen pop up. Make sure you have like capital B, capital C. All those little details. It's all in the details. Some people say design is in the details. So you make sure, like if you have a capital B, you have a capital C, capital M, capital P, and you look at it closely. make sure the spacing between the elements is the same in relation to each other and the edges of the board. I'll go over that again. The computer kind of does it for you to make it absolutely perfect. It like pops up little guides and says like, this is exactly where it needs to be. Don't squish the images or the text. Always scale it. Always go from a corner. This is that like idea where like you wouldn't want your like MATC ID with your photo on it and they just went and they smushed it. And you'd be like, oh my God, this picture. You know how we get our licenses or our IDs for anything? And you're already, people are already complaining about, but what if we squished the image? Either made it really skinny or really like squashed. You'd be like, I won't stand for this. This isn't what I look like. Well, don't do that to other images then. Somebody created a book cover or an album cover. Don't go in and make it a rectangle. It's supposed to be square if it's an album cover. So there are reasons why we do that. If there's stuff on it, it's the wrong shape, then you crop it. And I'll get to that. Here's one example. Little shapes around the edges. Color forms. I don't know if people remember that. Color form fun. I'm really dating myself with that. So it's page 1. I just said Elements Shape Research by Joel Scott. I made this one. And then I got my 3 shape album cover, book cover, movie poster. Everything is spaced out. I made them big. I'm not hiding them on the page. And just understand, the album cover might be a little bit smaller in relationship to these, but it's still big. If I made the album cover as big, it would kind of go off the page. But I can make the book cover and the movie poster the same height. So I'm always looking for relationships between the objects or the elements in my design. So this poster and the book cover can be the same height. They're kind of the same format, but the album cover can't be. But I can still make it big enough in relationship. I want to be able to see these things. So there's one example. Example 2, I spread it out. Got my title page, and here I centered it in relation to the design on the page. So you may say, well, Joel's off center. But if I measure this open area to this open area, it would be the same. And I just have one on each page. Just showing you can explore a little bit. Let's get into this. Nah, you don't need to see my keep. I just went, it's the same color and same shape. So that's why I clicked on keep. I think that's a poor design process. What is this? I'm going to go to blank presentation. Let's click on this one. I kind of just like their contents page. Yeah. So I'm going to delete anything I don't need. Delete. This I'll keep. Oh, this I can put like, here I'll put, get a reference back. Elements, shape research. So I'll go elements, shape research. Now, reading this, this reads clunky. Elements, shape, research. So if I hit a return here, then it's elements, shape, research. I'm putting the words together that should be together when they read. And this is something that you should think about as well. Like when you start to design and you're looking at your titles, or you should start to say like, how should the person read that? I want them to read elements, pause, shape research, all at once. And then below that, I can put my name. All right. There you go. And, you know, it's kind of cool. It's got some shapes on it. I just found that. Here, I'm going to delete everything out. I'll keep contents. I'm going to keep that and move it down. This I can delete because I'm going to use it. And then I'm just going to go in and delete those. I'm just clicking on it till it highlights and hit delete. And to tell you the truth, I am not very, like, I do these Google slides very, very little. So I'm not very good at it. I'm way better at the better programs, which we'll get to later. But you can do what you need. So this is what I'll have be for the titles. And I don't know if I shrink it. Okay, I might have to change the size of the font. There we go. All right. What era should I go to? I like to go really old. Sometimes I go too old. 1940s album covers, as I typed into Google. I'm going to click on images. I'm going to go to tools. I'm going to go to size and large. Why am I doing that? I want to make sure my example is big and it's not blurry. And right off the bat, it's the greatest thing ever. I see two. There's this weird one, but here, how is, and it can have the stuff on it. It's fine. It's a great example of like shapes, the circles and these, and then there's this dude. That's great. It's got shape in it. So I'm going to take it. So I'm going to right click on it and you can copy or save image as. I've been finding out copy image is just as good for most of the time, but edit, paste. And there it is. Now, I don't want this Alme at the bottom, and I think this sidebar is part of the album. So I want to crop it. So I'm going to go to this crop image. So if you go across the top, there's like two right angles. It's kind of a square, but not a square. And if I click on that, it'll allow me to crop the image. And it puts on these black items. And I just want to take off that bottom part. You know, like I don't need that showing. And that would be kind of the album. We'll leave it at that. So then if I click off of it, it crops it. I'm going to grab it from the side, the corner, top corner. Even if I don't have to hold shift, I always hold shift. And I'm going to move that album cover over here until I get my other pieces. I'll make it a little bit smaller. Now, book covers. Let's stay from the same era. Oh, man, right off the bat. Look at that. Good era to look at. I'm just going to make sure my size is large. Oh, it went away. That meant it was too small. And if I don't see anything, I'll continue to move on. But I think I see one. And I'm moving quickly. Spend some more time. You should dig in. Like, you don't want to see me just quietly scrolling through images. So that's why I picked some of the first ones. If you really wanted to just spend like 10 minutes of me like looking for the best possible image, I could. But I also don't want to preload and be like, here, I found this image and it's like perfect. Look at this one. Look at this. This is all shape. That's great. And that idea over here, when I look at it, these numbers in Google, when I'm over the top of it, one number needs to be over 1,000 for it to be applicable for our work. And that just pops up. So I always look over there, no matter what. These are above 1,000. I can click on it, copy image, edit, paste. Now you can use quick keys as well, which I usually do. And that's using the, on the keyboard, Command C, Command V. you should always be designing with two hands. One should be on the keyboard doing stuff, and one should be on your mouse. You will design much, 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 much quicker if you start to use quick keys. Quick keys are the same for a lot of programs. Here I am, I'm cropping. I'm cropping out all the stuff that's not needed. I don't need to see the white background. Look at that. And then just for right now, I'm going to hold shift, and I'm going to make this the same height as the album. I may change that. We'll see. Final one. Movie posters. Go to Tools, Size, Large. Again, I'm not going to spend a lot of time. I like this has a big square and it's got this like those two blue. I may go with that. Oh, look at this. Look at this, the red shoes. Like some horrible illustration. That's so bad, it's great. All right, but look at those shapes. So I'm gonna copy the image. Her feet, like they're ballerina shoes, but like the feet are still way too long, I think. Ballerina shoes have an extension on them, but that's like crazy long. And she's got like weird elfin ears. I don't know, the proportions are way off, but it's hilariously great. So we will use it. And so I hit copy image, and I'm going to go to edit, or I'm just going to hit paste because I can just paste it. And then I'm going to hold down shift so it constrains it. And then as you see me do that, I hope you see that happen. When I make it smaller, a red line appears across all of them. And that's where I stop, because that's saying the computer is telling me this line is in line with this line is in line with this line. Why not go with that? The computer knows better than I do. And so I'm going to do that again until that red line pops up. Here I got brackets. Just as good. The brackets are telling me stop scaling it. These are all the same size. Now, I like something that's going on here. So I'm going to get what I'm going to do. Sometimes I move something really far away and I move it back in to get the things to show up. And see how below my little box, there's the two little brackets and then the red line. If I let go, this book cover is perfectly centered in between those other two pieces. And I'm going to let go. Now I'm going to make my design purposely asymmetrical. I'm going to have it lined up with this white line here, and I'm going to have it stop short of this yellow. So I grabbed all three, and I'm going to grab the corner. I'm going to hold down shift, and I'm going to pull it up, and I'm going to stop it right at that. I'm looking at this white line reference here, and I'm going to move them up a bit. And I'm going to move it over. Yeah. I kind of like creating a smaller gap here. In my head, I'm creating the same gap here as there is here between this yellow and this corner and this corner and the upper. So it's like asymmetrical, but I'm using this yellow streak as a helper to help it seem not asymmetrical. And then with this contents, this is where we start album cover. And I want to make this smaller. So I'm going to go down to like, let's go 18. Oh, and look, I can go bold. There we go. What if I did, I know this is a bad idea, but I'm going to do it. What if we do the text like deep red or just the red? Because then it matches this album cover and this red, and this sort of has red in it, but then it's a reference to those. That looks pretty cool. And then I'm going to copy and paste. And all I have to do is wait for those lines to appear. And I'm going to hold down shift as I move it over. And I'm just waiting for those lines to appear. And then something to notice is the box is in line with the album cover, but the A is brought in a little bit. And that's just the way they make, like, it's the way that the program works. I gotta move this down, shift it up. So if you do that, make sure that like that same little gap happens on each one, and it's good. I understand that. The book cover, and actually I'm going to move all these up a little tighter to the copy paste. Oh, I hate sometimes then it doesn't do it. But that's in line, and I'm just going to hit my arrow key, or I can hold down shift. Maybe that shift threw it off. But I know it's going to be in line right there. And this is movie poster. And I think I'm going to have to reduce the size. And I have to reduce the size on all of them then. Oh, like, no. I'm getting a glitch. There we go. It wasn't letting me select that. Now, I made that smaller because I didn't want to get too close. So this text is 15. So I have to change this text to 15. This, whoop. This text to 15. Now they're all in line with each other, but I want them a little bit closer. So I'm going to grab one and I'm hold down shift, click on the other, hold down, I'm still holding down shift, click on the other. Is there an align in this? Then I'm going to tap them all up. And I do want them touching the bottom because there's a nice gap. As I talked last time, we never do this. We never have the text touch the object. We need that space in there. Reading room. And there's my piece. So, I don't know, that didn't take very long. It took longer because I was talking to you about it. So, Elements, Shape Research by Joel Skaja. There's my Shape Research. Then I go to, I would save it just in case you turn it in to me and I'm like, oh, make this little adjustment. So you save it and then File, Download as a PDF document. And there we go. Open it up. There's page 1 and there's page 2. There you go. Shape Research next Tuesday. All right. So that's how you do that one. That is for next week, Tuesday. Thursday, I'll go over Thursday's assignment, talk a little bit more about shape. There we go. Any questions, comments, or concerns as we end today's class? All right, excellent. I will talk to you on Thursday if I don't see you on the discussion boards. All right, take care. Thanks. Bye-bye.